10 years on from the crash at Cork Airport, let's talk about what actually happened. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It has been a decade since a commuter plane crashed into the runway at Cork Airport. So in this video, I'm actually going to talk about what actually happened. Now before we get into it, please like and share this video to give it a boost. So what happened? Manx2 Flight 7100 was flying from Belfast to Cork on the 10th of February 2011. The plane was a Fairchild Metro 3 aircraft, which is a 19-passenger turboprop, and was carrying 10 passengers and 2 pilots. As the plane was coming into land, and yes, I am using a paper airplane to demonstrate this, as the plane was coming into land, the pilots lost control. The plane rolled right, hit the runway right wing first, and slid upside down several meters before ending up on its roof in the mud next to the runway. 6 people, including the 2 pilots, were killed, and 4 passengers were seriously injured. Now I'm going to put the link to the crash report by the Air Accident Investigation Unit in the description box below, because I really do think it's a good read if you'd like more information on this. But the following were concluded to be contributing factors to the accident: poor maintenance, pilot error, operator structure / management, and lack of industry oversight. Now I will say this, I have oversimplified them a bit. It does go into quite a lot more detail in the accident report, which is one of the reasons why I do recommend you read it. First off, poor maintenance. The plane was suffering from asymmetrical thrust. Now, asymmetrical thrust is thrust where the engine on one side is producing more power than the engine on the other. And so this will tend to roll the plane in the direction in which there's more power. Now, this asymmetrical thrust is actually the reason why the pilots lost control. When the pilot, who was operating the power levers, reduced power to prepare for landing, he actually rolled it back too much, and the engine on the left wing went into reverse by accident. He inadvertently pushed the left engine into reverse, which caused the plane to roll to the left. The pilot, realizing that he had reduced the throttles too far, causing one engine to go into reverse, pushed the throttles forward again to try and recover. But then as a result, the left engine actually spooled up a lot quicker, going more powerful than the right engine, causing it to roll the other way, and then went nose down as the plane hit the runway, and then it slid upside down to its final resting place. The asymmetrical thrust, which the plane had been experiencing for over 100 hours of flight, had not been reported by any of the crews flying the aircraft, and was therefore never fixed. So the asymmetrical thrust, which was never fixed by maintenance, was the primary mechanical reason for the loss of control of the aircraft. So as I've kind of outlined in the previous cause, pilot error was also a significant factor in the accident. The pilot controlling the throttles moved them too far back and then too far forward, and didn't actually deal with the asymmetrical thrust. Before the landing attempt, which ended in the accident, the pilot made 2 go-arounds and was in a holding pattern for 30 minutes due to the poor visibility caused by Cork's notorious tendency for getting fogged up. And I actually noticed that when I was working there, it got foggy a lot. And it's like kind of term for it was like pea soup because it's so thick you could almost feel it. Despite the poor weather, the crew made a decision not to divert the aircraft and continue to do a third approach at Cork Airport. Now, this was actually quite interesting because the pilot flying was actually the co-pilot, which means he was actually manipulating the flight controls of the aircraft. But just before they started their final descent, the captain said that he would move the throttles during the landing, which is very unusual. Usually it's the pilot flying that's actually manipulating the throttles of the aircraft. The reason the investigators kind of came up with was that after 2 attempts, the captain probably felt that he could handle the asymmetrical thrust a lot better. Didn't really show that he could, did he? Now, another contributing factor that most likely caused these errors was that the pilots were believed to have been affected by fatigue during the flight and during the accident. And there have been numerous cases of fatigue affecting a pilot's ability to react properly in situations. I think it did affect his thinking when he was moving the throttles forward and back. One of the most shocking things that came out of this accident, I think, was the lack of support that the crew had from the airline, and particularly the structure of the actual operation in and of itself. Now, the fact that they were getting so little support is the reason it is believed that no crew reported the asymmetrical thrust or any other mechanical problems with the aircraft. There was actually nothing logged. It wasn't just the asymmetrical thrust that wasn't logged. Nothing was. Which in 100 hours of flight, you'd expect something to be wrong with the aircraft. Yeah, a lot of times it's something very, very small, but no matter how small it is, it needs to go in the maintenance log. But there was actually nothing in the maintenance log, which really shocked the investigators. And also, the lack of support from the airline was considered the probable reason why the crew made the decision not to divert the alternate airport, which was Waterford. Now, as I said, the flight operations itself were very convoluted. Now, I am going to try my level best to be able to recall it. Okay, so Manx2 actually isn't an airline at all. It only sold the tickets for the flights. The plane was owned by a Spanish bank, loaned to a Spanish company, LADA, which was then subleased to another company, Flightline, who then operated the flights that this plane was taking, including the accident flight. Also, it was partly leased to Royal Mail, where it served as a mail plane during the night time. So this plane was in constant use. During the day for passenger flights, during the night as a cargo mail plane. The maintenance was contracted out to a company, BCP Mechanics in Spain, which actually, from what I've seen, the plane was actually very rarely in Spain. so it didn't actually get much opportunity to have maintenance done on the aircraft, which didn't actually matter anyway because none of the maintenance problems were being logged. And then Manx2.com was the ticket seller. There were also issues with kind of the experience of the pilots in their respective roles. Both were actually very inexperienced, so the co-pilot didn't have that much experience in the co-pilot position. He'd only been there for 3 weeks, if I can recall. And the captain was only a captain for a month, I believe. But then there were also several other problems as well, including the fact that the pilots were not being paid on time, because the operator and Manx2 were struggling very much with their finances, as a lot of small airlines like this are. So safety was definitely getting hit hard. So the final contributing factor, I would say, was the lack of industry oversight of the Manx2 operation. The different regulators of the aviation industry in Ireland, the Irish Aviation Authority, the European Union, and the European Civil Aviation Community, which is the European arm of ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, had failed to identify several breaches of aviation regulations, including the limits to pilot duty hours, which caused the pilots to be flying in a fatigued state, as well as aircraft maintenance, which was seen in the asymmetrical thrust of the engines. And I think it's pretty fair to say that if the industry regulators had properly overseen Manx2, the accident would not have happened. So what happened afterwards? Well, Manx2 ceased operations and was liquidated in December 2012. So they no longer exist. Many of the loopholes in the aviation industry in Europe regarding the oversight of small regional airlines like Manx2 have actually been filled. They've been plugged up. When an accident happened, that's the only thing that the aviation industry kind of needs to do. Acknowledge the mistakes it made and fix them to make sure that those mistakes never happen again. These days, small regional carriers like Stobart Air, even though the coronavirus pandemic has hit them hard, operate with a much higher degree of safety because of the Manx2 crash. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts with me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear them. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe to keep up with my latest videos. Manx2 Flight 7100 was a crash that should have been prevented. There were several opportunities for the mistakes that were made to be caught, either by the airline or by the industry that oversees the aviation industry. The best thing in an accident is to learn from the mistakes made in it. And those lessons have been learned. So hopefully this kind of accident never happens again. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.